Hello, welcome to episode 51 of Fluffy Fibres, the French podcast in English on sewing, knitting and spinning a handmade wardrobe from head to toe. My name is Isabelle and I'm talking to you today from southern France. And today is July the 20th, 2017. First of all, I wanted to thank you so very much for coming here today, and if you're a returning viewer, thank you so very much for coming back after what's been such a long hiatus. I really do appreciate your sticking around and your being patient with me. If you're a new viewer, welcome to the podcast. This is not going to be a regular episode because I usually have a segment on sewing, a segment on knitting, and some spinning whenever I get around to doing some spinning. But because it's been over 6 months since I last recorded, I've decided to do one episode on knitting and sharing. Obviously over 6 months it does accumulate, so I do feel as if I have a plethora of things to share with you. So this episode is going to be on my knitting project, and next month I'll be recording an episode on sewing, and after that hopefully I'll be able to get back more regularly to the podcast and to do my regular episodes with a bit of sewing, a bit of knitting, and so on and so forth. So today's segments are going to be simply a handmade wardrobe and a bit of knitting with, I'm going to share my finished objects and then what I've been working on and my future projects as well for the rest of the summer. I'm not even going to have a cup of tea today because it's so very hot here, obviously, in southern France. Summers are very, very hot. And so I'm not drinking tea at the moment, I'm just drinking water, which isn't very exciting. So, but I do usually have a segment on what tea I'm drinking because I'm an avid tea drinker. So before I really get into the nitty-gritty of things, I feel I have to mention why I haven't been there for so long. And most of you will know because, those of you who follow me on Instagram will know. And Instagram is definitely the place to follow me. I am Fluffy Fibres on Instagram, Fluffy Fibres on Ravelry, and I have a website which is fluffyfibres.com where you will find the show notes for this episode, but also I've finally started to blog again about my makes. So if you want to follow me, your best bet is going to be Instagrams because that's really where I share the most, and I've been active on Instagram over the past 6 months. That's really the one place I've been able to stay active, more or less obviously, depending on the month, but I've definitely kept an online presence over there, so I've been sharing my projects. And this is also where I've been sharing my news this year. So yes, most of you already know that I can't even talk about it. I'm sorry. I can't talk about it on the podcast. But if you followed the podcast before, I'm sure, and even if you don't follow me on Instagram, I'm sure you know what I mean. But anyway, it's been a really rough start to 2017, and I've also been really, really busy with my 2 children. My little boy turned 1 on July the 1st, so it's almost 3 weeks already, which I can't believe is possible, but yeah, he just turned 1, and of course my children are keeping me really wonderfully busy. And I've had a lot of work as well, which also has been a blessing actually. It's been exhausting at times, but it's really been a blessing in the past few months. And it's been really very interesting work and gratifying work, so I feel very grateful for that, very fortunate to have had that over the past few months as well. But anyway, that's there's been a lot of reasons for my not being able to podcast over the past few months. I've really missed it though, and it's really hard to come back to it because there's so much to talk about, and of course I'm not used to doing it anymore. But I was so excited this morning when I was writing the show notes and gathering up everything. I got so excited to be talking with you about my projects again, and so I really do hope I manage to be more regular at it next year, which should be hopefully a little less crazy, but I always say that and then it always gets insane. But I really do hope I manage to find, to make some time for the podcast every now and then. Of course, the dilemma when you have so little time is if you podcast, then it's time away from your crafting, from your making, and when you have so very little time, it's really hard to make that decision. But I'm glad I'm making it today, and I really do hope you enjoy this episode with me today. So let's get into the swing of things, shall we? So for my handmade wardrobe today, I am wearing a dress that I made for my 30th birthday, which was 6 years ago, and it is Simplicity 2369. Don't be fooled by the number here. Somehow the numbers for Simplicity patterns are different if you buy them directly in, I think in France. I think I got that one directly from a French shop. So the actual number that you can see referenced on the website is the one I wrote on top, which is 2369. And so this is, so I made the dress version B, and so this is a dress with a regular skirt, out of a knit fabric with a regular skirt, but you have a wrap bodice, and the fabric I really like. It came from England, and it's this very bold floral print, tropical floral print on a black background, so I feel it's perfect for summer, and bold floral prints are very trendy at the moment, so that's great. These are part of my, among my favourite prints. They've always been, so it's always lovely when your clothes that you've made years ago and that you still wear gets trendy again. That's lovely. But yeah, I've been so excited about the current trend, because of course it means that's the kind of fabric you find more in the shops at the moment, and so it's all been about florals, and these are my favourites. So I've been, I've all my fabrics ready to sew for the next few months are right here, and I've been indulging in a little bit of fabric shopping over the last few months, and there are some lovely florals in there, which I can't wait to share with you next time I podcast. So yes, this is a very comfortable dress. I love wearing it in the summer. It's lovely for breastfeeding, because it's not a breastfeeding dress, but since it's in a knit fabric and it's a wrap bodice, it's perfect. So I love being both, elegant and still be able to breastfeed if my little boy is around. This is one of the dresses I wear during Me Made May. So I did do Me Made May this year. I always wear handmade, especially in the summer. I have so many handmade dresses. But I did take the time this year to take a picture almost every day and share it on Instagram. And it was quite a challenge for me, because May was definitely completely insane work-wise, but actually it was really nice to had 5 minutes a day just to myself to take a picture and post it on Instagram. So yes, that's for my handmade wardrobe. For a bit of knitting, or rather a lot of knitting this time obviously, since we're going to be catching up with half a year of knitting. I finished, first of all, the first thing I finished in 2017 is the breathing space / pavement pullover by Vera Velimeki. So what I did is really I mixed up the two designs. I started by making the breathing space, so the yoke is that of the breathing space, which is from Interpretations 3. But then I decided against doing the shaping, you know, the diagonal shaping really at the bust. And you know, in breathing space you have stripes, a bit of stripes, and then the stripes go diagonally. I decided against doing that, and instead I just continued knitting stripes, and I wanted to have a very roomy, boxy sweater really. So I knit it quite long, and then I decided to use the short row shaping from the Pavement sweater by Vera Velimeki as well, to have a curved hem, because I really like curved hems in boxy clothing. I think it's a lot more flattering on the body than to have so much, you know, that much fabric on the hips as well. And so really the general shape really is more like that of Pavement in the end. So it's a striped Pavement really. So that's why in my project on Ravelry I called it Zebra Crossing. The ends aren't wovening yet, because I just didn't feel like wearing this when I finished it. It was really associated with really difficult memories, and once it was done I just couldn't look at it anymore. So I'm sure I'll weave in the ends next winter and wear it. I just wasn't ready to do so when I finished it. The yarn I chose is Dreamin' Fibre for the purple. The dark purple is Dreamin' Fibre Smooshy in Velvet Port. And for the light pink, Dusty Pink, which I really love this shade, it's a British yarn. It's the Uncommon Thread, and it's the Into Dust shade. And I think I should one day I'm hoping to get some more of this to make an entire sweater out of it. I know my friend Liz Taylor, I think she knit an entire sweater out of this particular colour, and it's really this perfect soft dusty pink, which is really lovely. So yes, for the curved hem I used German short rows, which are definitely my favourite short rows because they're so easy and they're really flawless. I mean, you really can't see them, and I find them much easier than other short rows. Easy to memorise as well, really easy to use. So the one thing I'm not happy about regarding this sweater is that this was my first striped sweater actually. And so I didn't know how to deal with the stripes when you change colours. And so I do have this jog at the side when I change colours. And at first I just thought, well, you know, that's the way it has to be, right? So just so you can see. But when I started knitting the sleeves, I just had a look on the internet. I'm not sure why I didn't do that before, you know, before I knit the entire body. But so I had a look on the internet, and I realised there were ways to avoid this, you know, these steps really in the stripe. And well, you can find tutorials for that, very easy ones. I think I used one from Craftsy, the Craftsy blog. And so it gives a much less pronounced jog. You can't really see it, but yeah, you can see it's much less pronounced really. So I wish I'd done that before. I mean, I'm not sure anyone would notice, you know, the seam, the side. I mean, the side. It actually does look a bit like a seam, so I don't think it's a big deal. But next time I do some stripes, I'll definitely be careful and do the jackless method the whole way, you know, for the entire sweater, obviously. So that was quite a lot of work, actually. I think there were almost 3 skeins of yarn in this, of fingering weight yarn. So after that, I was very much in a pullover making mode this winter. I mean, it's basically always what I usually want to knit most on, because I really want to build a wardrobe, and so I really do like my knits too. I'm so inspired, you know, I have so many items that I really want in my wardrobe, so I'm always very inspired to knit on sweaters. So the next one I made was this one. This is actually the back, and this is Kira by Isabel Kramer, and it's got this absolutely stunning back panel, lacy back panel, and the colour looks completely blown out on the screen. I hope it will be alright in the final result. But yes, this is such a gorgeous panel. You have some texture at the sides, and then the lace panel, and this came at a completely ideal time because it helped me take my mind, well, keep my mind busy at a time when it really needed to be busy. So, you know, it is quite, you do need to pay attention because there's a lot going on, but it was perfect. It came at the perfect time for me. And the front is completely plain, and it's again very roomy. It's got very long sleeves, and so they're meant to be rolled up, you know, to reach, when they're rolled up, when they're rolled up like that, they reach my, you know, they're long on me, so if I do that, they cover my hands, which of course is very cozy in the winter. The yarn is one of my favourites. It's Gilliatt by Rerum Natura, and actually this sweater was designed for a collection by Rerum Natura. So it was designed for this yarn, and because I love this yarn, I felt I was actually looking for a design to knit in this yarn, and I found this and I felt it was perfect. And the colour, which I absolutely adore, is called Plume de Pan, so peacock feather, which is very apt. So I adored using the yarn. I've already knit a sweater for Seb out of this yarn, and actually my point was for all of us to have a worsted weight cozy sweater for when we go on hikes in the winter, which we love doing. So that was mine. I have one. My daughter has one as well. So that's mine now. Seb has one as well. And I really love this. And it made me realise I tend to, you know, because I need a lot of mindless knitting for when I'm commuting by train or watching TV and really exhausted at night. I tend to favour simple designs with simple stockinette for sweaters. And I was a little intimidated by that, but I realised how wonderful it was to knit something as textured, and it's so gratifying, so rewarding to do this. So I definitely can see more textured knits in my future. I actually have another sweater that I'm going to share as well, which is there actually, which was quite work intensive but really lovely. And yeah, so I definitely have more textured knits, lacy sweaters in my future, in my queue and Ravelry. So talking of worsted weight sweaters, my son didn't have one, so I made him one, and this is Flax by Tin Can Knits. This is a free design on Ravelry, and it knit up so very fast. And the yarn here, which I absolutely love, is Malabrigo Rios in Azul Profundo, and again it's blowing out, I feel, on the camera. Let me see if you can see it against my face. Yeah, that is the correct shade, and I really love this shade, and I really love the the tonal effect. I did alternate skeins for this because there was a marked difference between my two skeins. I think I used two skeins for this, I can't quite remember. It must be in my project page. So I do keep a project page for everything I make, so do feel free to check them out if I've missed a detail. So yes, the only crazy thing about this is I ended up making a size 2 years for the yoke, for the width, and I ended up having to lengthen it to the size, officially size 4 years, because at first I knit it in the size 2 years, tried it on my son, it was way too short, so officially this is the length is for a 4-year-old child, but I do feel it has to be too short for a 4-year-old. But my son is really tall, very long, long-limbed, and so he's well into his two-year clothes at the moment. So I wasn't surprised about the yoke, but I was really surprised about having to knit a 4-year long sweater. So I hope it still fits him in the next winter, we'll see. But I really like this. It's got textured sleeves with just a bit of garter stitch, so very easy, very fast. This knit up so very fast, and the yarn is wonderfully round and soft and very lovely for kids garments because it's superwash. I tend not to use a lot of superwash yarn, as you know if you've watched the podcast before, if you know me. Well, these are superwash yarns, but they had been in my stash for quite a while, yeah, so I used some superwash for him because obviously, babies, this is actually a tiny bit, it's spilled a little. I need to depill it, but yeah. So, are you still with me? I feel I have so much to share with you today. Yeah, after that I finished a cardigan for the baby of my best friend. So I showed a picture of Unravelry, and I'll share a picture here as well. This cardigan, I feel there was so much fate in this cardigan, because I actually knit it when my daughter was a baby, so 5 years ago, and I never got around to finishing it back then for various reasons. So it had been sitting, languishing. It was one of my oldest standing whips, really, and all I needed to do on it was weave in the ends and pick buttons and sew them on. And my best friend saw it last year when she came to visit, and she loved it because it's just this shade of dusty mauve, dusty pink that she loves. So when she saw it, she joked and said, well, if I ever get a daughter, another girl, and 2 months later, she was expecting a baby, and it turned out it was a girl, so it really felt like fate. So I finished it up for her little girl, added some lovely wooden buttons with a floral print on it, and it's made out of organic cotton by Fonty. It's their coton nat, and it's dyed with plants, so it's a completely natural yarn. And the shade was really nice. It's pretty close to this shade actually. So yes. And the design was the cardigan en piècement arrondi, which is a French design from a book of knits for babies by Citronille, which is very well known in France. It's quite a reference in French knitting, in baby knitting. So lastly, I think, no, in terms of sweaters, yes, my last sweater that I finished, I told you I've been on such a sweater making kick over the past few months. So the last sweater I finished was this one. So let me bring it closer so you can see it. So this is the Herbarium sweater by Nadia Crétin-Lechen, NCL Knits, and it was, I fell in love with this design, you know, the minute it came out last year, I think, and I feel it's so feminine and delicate and just lovely. And Maria from the Stitch in Sweden podcast knitted as well last year, and it has turned out really, really lovely. And it was very popular in the French knitting community as well last year. There was a knit along for it. And so I finally got around to knitting it this year. And I really, really love this, this sweater. So it's supposed to be knit out of wool, but I felt the design was very summery, springy. So I decided, because springs and summers are really, well, I wouldn't wear this in the summer unless it was unseasonably cool. But in the spring, yes, this is a perfect design for our springs here. But our springs and summer obviously are quite warm and then hot here in southern France. And so I made this out of Bergère de France Bigarelle, which is a blend of linen and organic cotton. And it does have just a few flecks, a few viscose in it for the tweedy bits, for the flecks of colour that you can see, hopefully. Let me show you more closely. You can see them more on the back. So you have all these flecks of colour. So this yarn came into my radar because Danny of Little Bobbins knit this yarn. I think 2 years ago she made a lino tee out of it, which turned out so lovely, and I really, really loved the shade. And this is the same shade that she used. She definitely inspired me there. The only thing about this yarn, so I really like the fact that it's linen and the cotton is organic, but I felt the tweedy bits, some of them were so huge that they actually distorted the stitches. So, and also some of the colours in the tweed didn't match the mauve in the main yarn. So I ended up picking out the larger bits because they really did distort the lace, especially. And so this is knit bottom up, and so at the beginning I realised that, and I actually frogged a little when I realised that, because some of the stitches were completely off because of the tweedy bit in it. The gauge was so different, and so all of the larger bits I picked out, and also picked out all of the red bits, which is completely, is completely OCD, but I knew if I were to wear this, I had to, do my own brand of crazy, I guess. I also picked out more tweed for the lace than for the back, so there is more tweedy bits in the back, because I felt the tweed might distract a little too much from the lace. So yes. But yes, so obviously it was more work intensive this way. It definitely slowed me down, because every time I came across a large tweedy bit or a red bit, I had to pick it out. But that's completely okay. I'm really, really pleased with the final result. I really wish they made the same yarn without the viscose in it, but yeah. But yeah, it's a really lovely yarn. It was super affordable. I got it at a sale as well. Bergère de France has very often sales in, at least when you're in France, and so this was very, very affordable. And I really want to make another one of these, so it has dropped shoulders, which I really like. I made it much more roomy than the design calls for, because I really wanted this to be, again, on the loose side. And I really enjoy wearing it. It's highly wearable. So the only thing is the lace, the instructions for the lace, for the increases at the sides were quite confusing, so again that slowed me down a bit. But now I've really, got the design, and I would really like to make one for the winter. Probably in a powder blue that I have from Sarah's Texture Crafts, which I forgot to bring up sadly, but yeah, I'm thinking of making another one out of some proper wool for the winter. And I'm thinking I should do that sooner rather than later, because so I can, remember the design well, and it's easier for me really. So as for the techniques that I used in there, the things that I changed, I did a tubuli cast on for the bottom, that the pattern didn't say to do that. I found Nadia Crétin-Lechen, her patterns there, I really love the aesthetic, the look of them, but I found them to be, they're definitely geared towards, experienced knitters, because you don't often have techniques explained, or she just said to cast on, and I think for a nicely finished ribbed cast on, you do need to do a tubuli cast on for garments. So that's what I did here. I'm not sure if you'll see. Let me see if that focuses. So yeah, that's what I did. What else did I do? I also did German short rows again for the shoulders. You have some shaping to make the shoulders, really, to shape the shoulders, and I did some short row shaping as well. Some German short rows for the shaping. I did a twisted rib for the neckline and for the sleeves, and I didn't do it for the bottom because I think I didn't think about that of it, and I wish I had now. But since that's the first thing you cast on, obviously I couldn't go back. But yeah, I did a twisted 1x1 rib. I love twisted rib. I think it's a lot neater than simple 1x1 rib. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, so yeah, in the end I finished 3 sweaters for me and 1 for my little boy, which obviously took about a week to make. And I felt quite accomplished about that because, again, I didn't have that much time, but I'm glad I was able to make all this. Making has definitely been my, one of the things that's helped me, over the past few months. The major thing that's helped me, obviously, has been my family, my children, but yeah, it's really helped me to, make some moments for myself, reconnect with myself somehow. So you've already seen a peek of that when I put it on my, since it was on my dress form, I'm going to put that back on. So yeah, the other thing that I finished was the Fairy Hill shawl by Helen Stewart, and this is the first design in her Shawl Society #2, which I was very excited to join, and I felt this was going to be the perfect, these were going to be the perfect, mindless projects. I felt maybe I was a little burnt out after making so many sweaters, and I've been definitely in a different knitting mood over the past few months or weeks at least, I would say. And I've been feeling like I need to make more gratuitous things, perhaps, things that were just for the pleasure of knitting. And so that's why I subscribed to the second Shawl Society. Actually, it was Seb's birthday present to me because the first shawl came out on my birthday in May. And so this is the Fairy Hill shawl, which I really, really love. I love this design. I just love Helen's designs. I know I say this every time I knit one of her designs, but they're always so easy and yet so effective. And this one is no exception. It's a very simple lace-knit pattern, really. It's her, a crescent shape, which she uses a lot in her designs. And I knit it out of some wool barn silk sock in the metal colourway, which is a light grey, medium to light grey, which I'd had in my stash for I think 2 years, and it was a very precious stash, but I felt it was a perfect treat for my birthday. And also I don't have a light grey shawl in my collection of shawls, and I feel this is going to go perfectly over both my handmade coats for the winter. So I have a dark grey coat which I made out of the Pavo coat by Deer and Doe, and I have very, very warm wool, well both are wool, but very warm coat by from a Vogue pattern, which is dark purple, and this is going to be lovely against that as well. So yes, I'm very happy about this little shawlette. It was very, again, very soothing to knit. I knit the small size, so it was relatively, well, it wasn't fast. It took me the whole of May to knit, but again, May was insane for me, so managing to knit this was already quite an accomplishment. So yes, I really, really love this little shawl, and I'm going to wear it quite a lot in the winter. And the yarn is just completely blissful. The last 2 things I finished were smaller things. I finished a pair of mitts, of fingerless mitts for me. These are my own design, which is a free design on Ravelry. They are my cup of tea mitts. And I already obviously knit 1 pair for the design, which I gave to my sister. I knit them for my sister. And so I wanted to knit myself a small pair because when I take the train, there's a lot of wind in the winter here, an icy wind, and when I wait for my train on the platform, my hands are freezing. And so I wanted some fingerless mitts so I could still use my phone, like any modern commuter does, I guess. And so yes, so I knit these, and I hope you can see the design well. So the yarn I really, really like as well. It's from my friend Ellie. Hello Ellie, who has the Goth Heart Creations Etsy shop. She is Goth Heart on Instagram and Ravelry. And she has the Goth Heart Creations Etsy shop where she dyes yarn, and she had dyed this gorgeous Ice Raid colourway. I think you can see it better on the other side, and I just love the way it doesn't pull. It's just it's so lovely. It's especially with the lace, not the lace, the textured pattern. This is the rest of the ball, and it's her MCN base. It's her Goth Couture base. So it's so, so lovely. I feel everything is blown out on the camera today. I do hope it's not going to be the case in the final result. We'll see. But yes, just my favourite shade of blue with lots of speckles in there. Just completely lovely. And very, very soft. So yeah, I find I've never been disappointed in hand-dyed yarn from British dyers. I think they have wonderful bases to start with, and then there's definitely a tradition, a fibre tradition, but yeah, this base is completely wonderful. So yeah, lastly, my last finished object is socks that I made for Seb, so for his birthday in early July. So these are really special because I absolutely love the yarn. I've always loved it, even ever since it came out, and it was a gift, a very thoughtful gift from my friend Sarah Hepworth, who is an amazing sock knitter. I'm sure you all know her. She has an incredible Instagram account, which I really do recommend you follow if you don't already. She is so inspiring, and she knits super fast, and so she knits a lot of socks, and she sent me a couple of so this is West Yorkshire Spinneys, and she sent me a couple of West Yorkshire Spinneys yarn, balls of sock yarn, in early February, which is so very thoughtful and kind. And one of the shades was definitely my favourite shade in their cocktail range. So this is their signature 4-ply yarn, which is British, completely British wool with 30% Bluefest Leicester in there. And so they did a cocktail range a few months ago, and one of them is this gorgeous, these stripes, and I just completely love these. They were such a treat to knit. I think the stripes go so well together. They are all of my favourite shades of blue and teal, and they were such a treat to knit. And I made them quite long, quite high, because Seb loves my socks, my handmade socks, and he wears them a lot in the winter. And last time he requested shorter socks, and then he ended up regretting it a little. So this time I made them nice and high, yeah, he wears them a lot. They're great for when we're hiking as well. So I did my usual favourite sock recipe, which is basically the How I Make My Socks pattern by Susan B. Anderson, but for the heel I used the heel from the Hermione's Everyday Socks, which is the modified Eye of Patro heel. So yeah, 2x2 rib for the cuffs, and I did 64 stitches. I do 56 stitches for my socks. I knit my socks on 2.5mm needles, so I do 56 stitches for my socks usually, and 64 for Seb's. Seb has quite slender, well, has very slender legs anyway, so these are fine for him. And he really loves them, which is lovely. And I do have some DK weight of the same yarn to make matching leg warmers for my son for the winter, so that's going to be really fun to knit on as well. So that is it for all of my finished objects. I hope you're still there, and now I'm going to share very quickly my current projects. So first of all, I have been knitting a Hetty cardigan by Andy Satterland. I've been wanting, when I did Me Made May, the very helpful thing about Me Made May is that it helps you pinpoint the gaps in your wardrobe, really, in your handmade wardrobe. And two things I really lacked were a pair of jeans. I really need to make myself some handmade jeans, and a white cotton cardi to wear over my dresses in the spring, at least in the early spring. And so I've been knitting a lacy, what I call in my project on Ravelry, a lacy Hetty. So Hetty is a worsted weight lacy cardigan by Andy Satterland, but the lace design is not as open as this one, and I wanted something more open, so I changed the lace design to another one with the same stitch count, and to get this, you know, this more open look. So I'm going to just try it on so you can see it better. So the body of the cardigan is done, and obviously I need to do the sleeves and then the button bands. So hopefully you can see I did it a little longer than the pattern calls for, because the pattern is really meant to be worn over, you know, 50s style new look dresses, which I love. I really love this style, but I don't always wear this style, so I wanted it to be a little longer so it could go with more clothes. So yeah, I hope you can see the lace detail here, the lace design. So I do need to pick up the sleeves. And the yarn I am using for this is my first try at Wool and the Gang, which is of course very well known. It's shiny happy cotton, which is Peruvian Pima cotton. It's made in Peru. It's made in reasonably ecological and especially well, sustainable and especially humane conditions, which is, as you know, something that is very important to me. So it's not organic cotton, it could be more ecological, I guess, but I really did want to try it out. It's incredibly soft, so it's very nice to work out. You don't feel, because, you know, working with linen cotton is quite a different experience from working with wool. And actually when I made this, I forgot to mention, but I was a bit concerned about that, and at first it's quite baffling in a way. You do need to adjust your tension differently because it's not elastic at all, there's no give at all. And eventually it turned out I was able to change my tension and knit quite comfortably on it just after a few days of adjustment, I guess. But this doesn't even feel like cotton. I mean, it's so very soft. Definitely you don't have that kind of give, but still it feels almost like a wool and cotton blend. So it's very, very nice cotton, definitely. So this is the pure white colorway. Can't remember. White nose. Yeah, it's called white nose. So yes. So I started this in June, and somehow I just lost interest in it. After I knit the body. So this has been actually languishing and waiting in its project bag for over a month now, almost 2 months I would say. For some reason I just grew, I don't know, uninterested. I think probably this also has to do with the weather, I don't know. But somehow I felt like knitting more mindless project, not so much mindless as gratuitous projects, and I really enjoyed knitting Seb's sock. And as soon as Seb's sock were done, I wanted to cast on another pair of socks, which is very usual for people like Danny or Kristin, of course, of Wool and Vine Yarns, and who has the Yarngasm podcast. Hello Kristin. You know, their rule is, as soon as you cast off a sock, you need to cast on another one. And I'm not that kind of knitter. I'm not usually I mean, I love having socks, and I do enjoy making them when I do, but I find usually I love making sweaters more. Somehow at the moment, I seem to have turned into Kristin or Danny, and what I want to knit on is socks. So as soon as these were cast off, I cast on a new pair of socks, which are the Mercury socks, and so that's why the cardigan hasn't gotten enough love over the past few weeks, and so I've started knitting the Mercury socks, which everyone, I think, every sock knitter has been knitting over the past, ever since the pattern came out. So this is a free pattern on Ravelry by Kim Drota, and it's a lovely lacy pattern. Let me put one on a sock blocker so you can see the lace well. It's a lovely lace pattern because it's so pretty, and I've really been wanting to have a lacy pair of socks for a while because these are perfect for my climate, of course. And I have a pair of store-bought socks that I really love, that are very lacy. So there you go. So this is the first sock. I always knit my socks concurrently, meaning I'm going to knit the cuff and then down to the heel, and then I'm going to cast on the second one, so that I know exactly, I know exactly how long it is, and I don't get second sock syndrome, all these good things. So yeah, I did I followed the pattern exactly, and it's not a 2x2 rib, it's a 2x1, I think, rib. Yes, so that the pattern then flows, the lace pattern flows into the rib, really. So the stitch pattern is lovely because it's really pretty. It looks rather complicated, but it's not. It's a 5 stitch repeat, and it's a 5 row pattern repeat. So you know, as soon as you've knit, I think, a couple of pattern repeats, so 10 rows, you can tell what row you need to do based on the previous row, and it's very easy to memorize. So these are really lovely. They look complicated, but they are actually quite mindless. So yeah, and the yarn I'm using is some Reggae yarn, which I'd had in my stash for, I think, at least a couple of years. I can't find the ball band, but it's their Tweed Trend and Classic, and the colorway is Neon Natur, I guess I should say. So it's a natural shade, creamy, a warm creamy cream colour with neon flecks in it. And I got such a kick out of this a few days ago, because we were at a cafe for Bastille Day, and I brought some crayons for my daughter, some Crayola, neon Crayolas that actually Kristen gave us a few years ago. We don't have these neon crayons here, and they are really, really fun, and they were the exact same shades as the speckles in here, so that was really, really quite fun. And I'm using a stitch marker here, I think, yeah, just to mark the beginning of the row. It's a progress keeper, really, and I think this one is from a homespun house. Yeah. So love these, really do. If you've been wanting to knit some textured socks, you know, to veer away from your vanilla socks, this is such a great pattern to try out. I swear it really isn't complicated or challenging, and it's pretty much as mindless, almost as mindless as knitting a vanilla sock. My last work in progress is going to be a work in progress from quite a while, because I finally started my crochet granny stripe blanket, and I've been wanting to start one for about a year, I should say. And I used to, when I was expecting my son, so in January of 2016, I started a Flower in the Snow blanket. So I started making little, all the little circles, and I had spun a lot of minis for that. But then I realised it just wasn't for me, not at the moment anyway. I just felt like I would never finish it, because there is so much assembling to do, you know. So I really wanted to start a crochet granny stripe, and still use my hand spun and use some special yarn as well for it. But I wanted to be in the right spot for it. I really want this to be a happy project associated with happy memories, memories of, you know, happy, soothing times. And so I finally started it when we were, well, the first time we went on a weekend in about a year. On that, you know, as a family, we went on holidays really for just a weekend, but it was such a nice break, and we went on our favourite spot on the riverside, and so I finally cast it on over there. And so here is the beast. So this has been just the perfect project, you know, summer project to relax with, and just enjoy the, you know, the yarns, the colours, the softness. Just a lovely, lovely project to work on. So here it is for you. It is, I made it really, really wide. I made it almost 2 meters wide, because I want this to cover our bed and then some, you know, to really be comfortably over our beds in the winter. Our room gets really cold in the winter, and I don't like to use the heating in our room. So this is going to be lovely. And so, yes, this is almost 2 meters long, and as you can see, I've made probably about 30 centimeters so far. And And I do have a colour scheme. It's my theme is I want this to look like a wildflower meadow. You know, like the fields of wildflowers they were when I was a child, you know, back when they didn't use so many pesticides in the fields, and we used to go in the fields. My mother's parents were, you know, farmers, and so we used to go in the fields and pick bunches of flowers, and it was just so lovely. And so I want this to remind me of these happy times and to have all of these soothing shades in it. So there is, you know, of course it's a very wide coloured palette, but there's definitely a palette in here of soft pinks, purples, mauves, blues, soft greens, and then I add some whites in there as well, some speckled whites. I actually have been adding a lot of the this yarn in it, and actually as a result I may not have enough to make the socks completely out of this yarn, but I do have a lovely mini saved for the toes, so that's just perfect. That's going to be lovely, I think. But yeah, so I have loved using the Regia for adding a bit of cream every now and then. So there is a lot of handspun in it, and otherwise it's yarn from the British yarn from the Knitting Goddess. It's minis that I got quite a while ago, which is a completely British wool, custom spun in Yorkshire for the British Goddess, for the Knitting Goddess, sorry. And then it's just yarn that's special to me, like all my handspun of course, but also this yarn, which is just a wonderful shade for it actually, this Ice Road from Gothard Creations. It's the perfect shade of soft blue for it. And so this, you know, this is yarn that you know, Ellie is a special friend, so it's very special for me to have this in there. So yeah, this has been just lovely. Of course it's a little bit hard to work on now, but it's okay. I always try and put it to the side of me when I work on it, so that it's, you know, I don't boil too much. And I've actually been getting some a bit more yarn for it. So yes, to store all the minis for this, I initially used this, and I'm still using it, which is a very precious project bag from Not a Gnome Crafts, who's in the US, and she sent me that bag I think about 2 years ago as a gift, and it's so incredibly well made. It's one of my most precious project bags, really, that one, and yeah, just a few others that some friends have sent me as well. One from Artisan Bags, who makes beautiful bags as well, and one from Adelaide Cottage. I think I would say these 3 bags are my very special bags. Oh, and then those from Mama to Abigail as well, obviously, who is Holland Handmade. But yeah, this one is so incredibly well made. It's, you know, you've got a pieced band over there. It's so lovely. And so I had been saving this especially for this crochet blanket, which is why you haven't seen this much on the podcast before, because it had been waiting to be used for this special project. And so there are so many minis in there, as you can see. A lot of them are handspun, like this one for instance, which is also a perfect shade for this. So most of my minis are fuzzling from fondant fibre, and you have a lot of yardage in a fuzzling. I mean, you can make a lot of yardage in fingering weight yarn. Of course, this is fingering weight, all of the yarns that I use here. And so I'm using a 3.5mm tulip hook, which is wonderfully ergonomic and very pretty as well. But I just got some more yarn for the blanket though, because I felt I was lacking some blues actually, which is quite strange coming from me because I adore blue. I was lacking some blue and some soft greens as well, and so I got a gorgeous skein of this blue and green speckled yarn from Homespun Wonders on Etsy, and they're in Sheffield, so in one of my favourite parts of England, near the Peak District, in the Peak District I should say. And this is really, really lovely yarn, beautiful yarn. I was so happy when I received it, and I got some minis from them as well. This one, and they are speckled, which is so lovely. So a few minis from them as well. This one as well, haven't used them yet. So nice. And then I started digging into my stash of handspun, because I have quite a basket of handspun, which I'm going to show you actually. So this is my basket of unknit handspun, and it's full to the brim. It's quite a large basket. And I tend not to use this yarn much, simply because it wouldn't, I mean, I love spinning with variegated, colourful braids. I love the finished result, but I wouldn't make garments for me out of them. That's just not my style. But they are perfect for this kind of project. So I've been using some of them within the blankets. And the one that matches it most is this one. It's from Juno Fibre Arts braid, and it's got all of the colours that I love in this blanket. Basically, it's got all the colours that I wanted to use in the blanket. Some greens, purples, pinks and blues. So perfect. So I've been using this quite a lot, especially as it's so variegated. I typically crochet one row before I change. I switch colours, I switch yarns, and I'm of course magic knotting everything together. But because this is so varied, I can usually crochet at least 2 rows of this without the rows looking similar, really, So that's been really lovely. So yes, that is all for my finished objects, my current makes, my current projects. So very fast now, because it's going to be such a long episode, I'm sure you understand. I have been planning a few things. Well, first of all, I'm going to knit more socks as soon as my Mercury socks are done. I'm going to knit the Croissant socks by Teresa Schingler, who is a friend on Instagram. She has a little boy just the same age as mine, and she's from England. She dyes yarn, beautiful yarn, and she designs patterns as well. And she recently designed a new pair of socks, which are really lovely. I'll insert a picture here. And I really loved these, and she was kind enough to send me the pattern as a gift, which was so very thoughtful, and it really made my day. And so I think I'm going to, I've already prepared my little project bag for this. This is one I made, and I'm going to use some yarn by Herbstblatt Regina, which I bought last year. I think it's her aquarium colourway, if I recall. It's just stunning. So yes, I'm going to knit. These are ankle socks, and so I shouldn't be needing much of this. But yeah, definitely I'm going to use this for the socks. I can't wait. Thank you very much, Teresa. Another project I have is I got some more cotton from the Wool of the Gang, because I really enjoy the way it knit up. I really enjoyed my swatch as well. So I got some of their shiny happy cotton again to make a Breton top. So I got some ultraviolet with some hot pink for the stripes. So I got 4 balls of this, 1 ball of this for the stripes. Let me see if you can see the actual colour, because on the screen it looks this one looks very blue on my return screen. It's purple, very neon-y purple, and I felt this would make a really fun combination for a casual top, cotton top. I already made my swatch, which it's a very small swatch, but I know Jenny of Tiny Pepper Foxes wouldn't approve, but it was just a swatch to have fun with the yarn, really. And I really like the feel of this and the way it's, you know, the gauge I get. So yes, I'm going to probably improvise my own pattern for this. I'm going to make a very simple raglan shaped quarter sleeve top with this. Lastly, I just signed up for a test knit for Marianne, who is Maman Crotte on Instagram and Ravelry, and she's a very prolific pattern designer, especially for children, because she loves designing for garments for her children. And she's going to launch a pattern collection of I think casual basics for girls. And so I signed up to knit the size 6 of her Nausicaa design, and I got some yarn for it, which is from some French yarn, Annie Blatt. It's pure wool, 100% wool, made in France, super soft, and it's in one of my daughter's and mine favourite shades, which is this vibrant teal. So I've got 3 balls here, and I'm probably going to need another 2 balls, but they didn't have enough in the shop, so they ordered it for me. So with these glorious shades, it's time to finally end this podcast for today. I'm so very glad I was able to record this morning, and I'm so very grateful for those of you who've stuck until the end of this very long episode, and who've returned to the podcast to watch me. So I really do hope I'll be back to podcasting after the summer holidays. I'm really hoping to record an episode because we're leaving on holidays in 2 days, which is going to be lovely. And so I'm not going to have an internet for a few weeks, but I'm coming back in late August, and I'm hoping to have a bit of time at that moment to film my sewing episode, so to catch you up on what I've been sewing over the past 6 months, well, in 2017 really, and then we can go back to regular episodes and about all of my making. So thank you so very much for watching today. I do hope you enjoyed. I do hope it wasn't too much. I guess it must have been a little overwhelming. I felt overwhelmed when I gathered everything up, but also quite excited again. So yes, until next time, I wish you a wonderful summer, or winter obviously if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, and I do have a few friends in the Southern Hemisphere, so I always think of you when I say this. And yeah, I wish you a lovely month of July and early August, and I really very much hope to be back in late August. So until then, happy making, friends. Make things that bring you joy, and I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.